These notes are on similar figures. This is review of what you learned last year. So what I would like you to do is work through the entire beginning part, see what information you remember, try and plug it in. So you can push pause and do that. And then when you're finished, come back, push play, and check to see if it is correct and make changes if necessary. You will need a pencil and 3 highlighters. So for figures to be similar, the figures must meet 3 requirements. Number 1, corresponding sides must be proportional, which basically means when you set up the ratio of corresponding sides, they have equal ratios, each one. Corresponding angles must be congruent, and congruent means equal. And number 3, the figures must be the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. The symbol to show figures are similar is a little squiggly. So let's move down to the example problem down here. We're going to start first with the beginning, use the symbols for similar figures to show triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. So we have 2 different methods to figuring out which sides are corresponding. The first method, we're going to use the key that was given to us. So we're going to take our first highlighter, and it says triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. So the letters tell you the order. So AB and DE, the first 2 in the title, are similar to each other. So we're going to highlight those, AB and DE. And in our table, corresponding sides, AB is similar to DE. Next one, we have BC next to each other and EF. So BC and EF. And our third pair, since we don't have any more that are next to each other, we go first and last, AC and DF. AC and DF. Okay, the second method, other than your key, is to look at the given information and pick out parts that is important to you. So if we're looking at our right angle first, take your right angle on both triangles, and you can look at the side that is directly across from those 2. So across from the right angle, we have BC, and across from a right angle on our smaller triangle is EF. So those are similar to each other. Also, you can look at the ones that are connected. So if we're looking at the right angle on our large triangle, and you're looking at 53. So if you look at the right angle to 53, that side is the same on our smaller triangle as right angle to 53. So those ones are the red, AB to ED. And then our last set is you're looking at angle 37, and the right angle to 37 is AC on our large triangle, and right angle to 37 is DF on our smaller triangle. Okay, so corresponding angles, we can go through and do that pretty quick. The right angle is angle A. So angle A is similar to angle D. And then we have 53. So angle 53 on our large triangle is angle B. And the 53 on our small triangle is angle E. And our last one, we have 37 degrees on our large triangle is angle C. And on our small triangle is angle F. Okay, so now everything is labeled. If we look back, the second part says determine the scale factor from triangle ABC to triangle DEF. So you're going from the larger triangle to the smaller triangle. So you're going from ABC to DEF, okay? And they want to know what the scale factor is. So they want to know what is the ratio, or that proportion, that ratio that's set up. How do I get from triangle ABC to DEF? So let's look here. Let's look at one pair of corresponding sides. We have 10 and 5 units. We have BC is similar to EF, okay? So if you remember back from when we were setting up proportions and seeing if something is similar, we need to see, how do I get from 10 to 5? How do I get there? Well, you can do two different things. You can go from 10 to 5, I can divide by 2, or same thing, I can multiply by 1/2. 10 times 1/2 is 5. This fraction is the ratio that I'm looking at. That's what I want. So I want to see, how can I set up 10 and 5 to make a ratio of 1/2. 10 and 5 to make a ratio of 1/2. So I would say that 5 divided by 10 is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, so let's look at the next one. I have 6 units for AB is similar to 3 units on ED. How do I get from 6 to 3? Same thing, I'm multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2. So how do I set up that ratio to say 1/2? 3 over 6 is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, the last one. I have 8 units. I have AC, and I have 4 units for DF. I have 8 and 4. How do I get from 8 to 4? I either multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. So my ratio that I want to see is 1/2. How do I make 8 and 4 look like 1/2? I have 4 divided by 8, which equals 1/2. So what is my scale factor? You look at all of these ratios right here. They are all the same thing, so your scale factor is 1/2. How do I get from triangle ABC to triangle DEF? I multiply by 1/2.